Hey guys, how you doing? Long time no see. I've been, without going into too much detail, I've had a lot of issues pop up, and we're both personal and professional, and so I'm dealing with that, all that, and I'm taking a little reality break. I've gotten this idea this past weekend to do this, and I think it's gonna be a good idea. Because I used to love this band. I still do. They still got a hold of a special place in my heart, even though I don't really listen to them much anymore. I kind of wore them out, but we'll see. Maybe I'll rekindle a new love affair with them. But we'll see. Let's see. So we're going to do a Dream Theater tier list. I've already got it set up in chronological order. Well, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. Okay, that was a little bit out of order. I'm gonna rank all these now because I know them really well. In fact, I know where they go now. I'm not gonna change. I may change it. We'll see. But these I have not even heard, except for this one. I have heard that one, but I basically I'm gonna give it a second chance and give all these a good chance, and maybe they'll infiltrate the the list. Because at the beginning of my thought process of doing this, I automatically was going to have these at the last. But I'm not going to do it that way, and I'm going to rank them a little different than most people. Because Dream Theater is an exceptional band. They have an exceptional standard to stand up to, and I'm going to hold them to that. So I've got 5 tiers of ranking. High is genius. The next highest is great. Next highest is good. This is okay, and the bottom is unacceptable. And I came up with that because I feel that's the appropriate word for the albums that I put there. To me, they're unacceptable. They're not just bad. They were a mistake, in my opinion. And there's at least one of those in this video right now. And here we go. We're gonna start. I'm gonna do them in chronological order. This is the first album. Now this album here has a little bit of a caveat to it because it was a different vocalist named Charlie Dominici, not James LeBrie, who's the vocalist now. And it was their first album and it was the only album with that vocalist. And what happened was they had to change vocalists because they decided that he wasn't a good fit for what they wanted to do. They wanted a Jeff Tate sounding vocalist, and they were getting a Billy Joel style vocalist. And he tried, he did a good job, but it just didn't quite fit. And so this album, in my opinion, is good. Right in the middle. That's the standard. It was good. It could be better if they were if the engineering was better. It's mixed. Well, it's their first album, so it's not going to be mixed the best. But the quality is there. They were a little young to let it grow and mature a little bit. So that's a good album. It's very solid. Check it out if you haven't heard it already. It's different, but you can hear where they're coming from. This album right here, number 2 or number 1, first one with James LeBrie. It's basically a debut album. The band sounds almost completely different. This one is genius. That is a great album. And to come up with an album so awesome at that young stage of their game, where, like I explained, it was almost a debut again, and to have it be as big of a popular as it was absolutely shocking. What can you say about this album that if you don't know about it? It's everything that prog metal. In my mind, it's the fruition of progressive metal. If you consider Rush progressive metal, I don't really. I don't. I consider them like they're still progressive rock in my mind. You know, they were heavier than most of those bands. Um, they weren't quite metal. I don't consider them very metal. So I think maybe Pain of Salvation was out before Queensryche might be. I don't know if they were doing progressive music yet. They started out as a metal band, and slowly got more progressive as time went on. But this is the say what you will about those other bands and when they came out and what they were doing. This is the legitimate birth in my mind of progressive metal because this album had it all. It's got ballads, it's got metal, it's got progressive Zappa-like instrumental sections, and it's all and everything in between. It's all done at the best of its kind. Still holds up to this day. The mix doesn't hold up. The triggers on the snare are kind of hard to listen to now. The big echo, the big '80s echo. Even though it was made in '92, it's not a big '80s echo. Um, that dates it, but that's the only thing that dates it. The music definitely does not date it. So it's a work of art. Very brilliantly done album. And if you have different opinions or want to know more, whatever you want to say, I suck or I'm right on, whatever you want to say, just put it in the comments below, and I'll look at them. And if they're derogatory, I'll just ignore them. I gotta finish this up because it's getting close to time. I'm feeling one of my turns coming on, so I need to hurry this up. Okay, next album, Awake, came a couple years after that. Dark turning album compared to the environment that Images and Words created. It's not happy go lucky. Excuse me. But it's not nearly as dark as Awake is. Awake is really dark. There's a lot of pain and anger and the main keyboardist quit the band right after that. There's yet another change in the lineup happened after this album. One of the main lyricists and inspirations of a lot of the music left. So, but this album is great. There's only one song on it I would take out. I don't skip it. If I'm listening to the record all the way through, I don't skip the song, but I wish it wasn't on the album. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem to fit. I mean, it fits, but it's kind of redundant compared to what the rest of the album. It's kind of redundant. It's kind of, it doesn't need to be there. So, and that song is called Innocence Faded. Okay, so this is a great album. If it weren't for Innocence Faded, it might be brilliant. It kind of ends on a downer note. It's a great song. I can't imagine anything out of the way, but it's basically saying goodbye to Kevin Moore, the keyboardist. The only song up to that point that I can think of that the music was not attributed to Dream Theater. The music was attributed to one person. Oh, wait, there was an album where they did attribute the music to individual people instead of just Dream Theater. But this is the only song that I know of that was only attributed, music was only attributed to one person. Kevin Moore wrote the lyrics and the music was all his. So he kind of did a mini production of that. And so that was the end of his career with Dream Theater, and that's when he started doing his other stuff, which is very interesting, very different. He didn't like doing the thing anymore. So, but that's a great album. Everything's great on it, except for, like I said, Innocence Faded. It feels redundant. There's 2 suites, I will call them, 3 songs each. A Mind Beside Itself, which is what that suite is called. It involves an instrumental called Erotomania, voices, the second song, and the third song is Silent Man. Then there's another suite I think it's only 2 songs. The Mirror and I can't remember the name of that song. Anyway, there's two groups of songs that work together. They reference each other, and that's kind of cool. Okay, next. Kind of going a little, dragging a little bit. Next album. This album is an EP. It's not a full length album, but like I said, it's instrumental to me. That's when I came in. That's the first album I bought from them, and it's great. I'm only ranking the EP, the one song that's 25 minutes. The rest of the album is a live concert of covers, and I bought it because if I didn't like the Dream Theater song, I would listen to the covers and be happy with it. But I liked the Dream Theater song too, and got me into them hard and heavy. I was introduced to them on Images and Words, but someone played for me a song called Under a Glass Moon, and that drum part stuck with me forever. But I wasn't ready to hear the band yet. It's too metal. I didn't listen to a lot of metal until Dream Theater. Okay, so that's there. Next is Falling Into Infinity. Now the reason why this came out was because it was to tie people over between Awake and Falling Into Infinity while they looked for another band member. So they hired Derek Stradian in this album, and only this album, but he's on this one too, but that doesn't count. He wasn't a member of the band at the time, he was just a hired gun. This album, he was a member of the band. And this album is okay. Definitely not one of my favorites. They definitely could have skipped making this album completely, but so that's the only good thing about that album is the cover, I think. The record label was kind of leaning on them to produce a hit, and they didn't. But they awfully tried on this album. You could tell they were trying to tone down their parts. They shortened their song lengths. There's nothing wrong with shorter songs, but don't tone down the quality. And I think they were toning down the quality a little bit too much. You could tell they were trying to appease the powers that be, and then they got rid of Derek Stradian and they hired Jordan Rudess for this album, and they said this album will make or break the band. If we're going to do one album, they told the record label, so we're going to do one album our way. If it doesn't work, we quit. If it works, you got to leave us alone and let us do what we want to do. And guess what? Boy, did it work. And they've been left alone ever since. That album is pure genius. It is right up there with Images and Words. I flip-flop back and forth between which one is the better album. It's a concept album. Tells a story about a hypnotherapist trying to get to the bottom of an issue that his patient has, where one of his previous lives was murdered, and murder was never solved, and they're trying to solve it, or he's trying to solve it in his mind so he can live on. Because she's kind of giving him dreams at night, and it's he can't sleep. And there's a twist ending, which all good prog concept albums have. And I can't say too much. I can't say enough about this album. It's everything, just like the Images and Words. This album's called Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. I forget the name of the album names because I assume everybody knows what they are. But that album is great. Tells a definite story. There's a live DVD of it. That's you should watch. A good introduction to the band if you never heard them before. Again, it's everything they do right. I can go on and on about that album. It's a classic. So, next, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is the name of this album. Is next. 2-disc album, a lot of material. I thought I knew which way they were going to go after the last album, and they didn't go that way when I put disc 1 in. But they did go that way on disc 2. Disc 2 is one long complete song. Supposedly, it's 42 minutes. I don't think it's a long song. I think it's just it's a long piece of music that works well together. The songs work by themselves and they work together. I like side 2. I like disc 2 a lot better than disc 1. Disc 1 is good. It's really good. But disc 2 is almost brilliant. So, because of that, this album gets a grade. Okay? Check out, my favorite is disc 2. It opens with a great overture. Next album. This is called Train of Thought. This album was written in 2 weeks, and it's focused. It's a one-sided album. Most of their albums are not one-sided. They're all mixtures of different styles and everything. They try to do everything together. This album, they strictly wanted crowd favorites. They said, these are the songs that we've had that the crowd really reacts to. Let's write more of that. So they did. They wrote a whole album of it. And it's really good. But is it great? Well, according to my precedents, I've said it's better than this album. So it's got to be great. You got to be really, really good to be in this tier. And it's a very heavy album, unlike anything else they've ever done, I think. And it's definitely worth a listen. This album, this is their 8th regular studio album, 9 if you count the Change of Seasons, which that one is. But it's 8, and that's why this one's called Octavarium. It deals with all the number 8. And it's the 8th album. It's the eight songs on it. But there's more to it than that. There's a lot of hints about the number 8 and everything that's related to it. Check it out and see if you can figure out a lot of the hidden little gems. When you figure them out, it's really kind of cool. They give you clues on the inside of the album of why it's called Octavarium. And you can figure it out. So, that album is good. I think I put it in good. I don't think I put it in okay. It's going in good. And the reason why it's not great is because it's very derivative. The title song has a whole opening section that is, I'm not going to tell you what they're ripping it off from. If you hear it, you'll know. And yeah, it's a good concept. It's a Pink Floyd style concept, but the songs just aren't amazing to me. They're good. They're good. It's not a bad album. It's a good album. I'll listen to it all the way through. Next, Systematic Chaos. This album is, what do you think? Where do you think I put it? Where do you think I put it? It's great. That is a great album. It starts and it ends with the part 1 and part 2 of a epic song, In the Presence of Enemies. They were going to keep it together. They realized it was really long, and there was a natural point in the middle of it where it breaks. It makes for a nice break, and so they did it that way. They put on the album that way. And it really, really works well. It really was a great decision to do. Any songs on here I don't? Oh yeah, there is a song on here I don't like. Ministry of Lost Souls. That song just drags, and it comes near the end of it. I'm ready to turn it off. You know, I skip that song. And normally if I skip a song, it doesn't make it great, but the other material is just so good that I got to keep it. But great album, great album, great album. Now the last one with Mike Portnoy on it, Silver Clouds and Silver, no, Dark Clouds and Silver Linings. Where do you think this is gonna go? It's gonna go right here. This album is unacceptable, especially following this one. It really stands out how terrible it is when you put against that. That album should never have been made. Should never been the only good thing about it is that they finished the 12-step suite that was started with. I didn't even get into that this video. Mike Portnoy quit drinking and did an AA 12-step suite. Each not each 12 songs in each album, or 12 songs in the piece and 12 albums, but he pieced like 1 through 3 together on this one. I think 4 and 5's on this one. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5's on this one. 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10. I can't remember. Anyway, that's the only good thing on that album is the, and that's really not. That's like the weakest part of that suite. So it doesn't even save it that much. It is unacceptable that band made this album. It's awful. So that's the list so far. Next time I'm going to listen to this album. I'm going to listen to this album at least. Maybe I'll listen to 2 of these, and I'll do 2 at a time. And I'm going to get real in depth with these. Maybe. We'll see. And then maybe I'll go into, if you want, I may rank within the tier. That'd be something. That'd be kind of cool. I might do that. Especially the great tier, because the great tier has a lot of albums on it, which I did not know I was going to do that. I thought it was going to be more spread out, but that's how I feel about it. This is pretty accurate with how I am musically and how I got introduced to this band. And I hope you enjoyed it. And there's more to come. Leave your comments. Don't do whatever you want to do. Just be a part of this. A lot of guys have different, like a lot of people that I used to associate with a lot come from a different whole mentality of Dream Theater. They didn't start listening to them until this album. So they have a totally different perspective. And that's okay. That's their perspective. That's how they see it. That's their truth. This is my truth. And I just happen to be right. Okay, guys. Take it easy, and hopefully the audio sounds a lot better on this one. And I'm going to keep going. Next time is going to be this album, which is called a Dramatic Turn of Events. And boy, is it. I do remember some of the things on it, but I'm going to listen to it again. And this time I'm going to pay attention. And I'm going to give it a fair ranking with these. I'm going to try. Okay, here we go. See you later. Take care, guys. And don't forget to subscribe.